What if I told you that gray hair is not just about getting older, and that in many people, it can actually be slowed, stopped, or even reversed at almost any age? What if the real reason your hair lost its color isn't genetics, stress, or time itself, but a silent nutritional shutdown happening deep inside the hair follicle? And what if restoring the right nutrients could help restart pigment production again? Stay with me, because the next few minutes may completely change how you think about gray hair forever. Most people believe gray hair is permanent. Once it turns gray, that's it. Cover it with dye or accept it. But science tells a very different story. Hair turns gray when special cells inside your hair follicles, called melanocytes, stop producing melanin. Melanin is the pigment that gives your hair its natural color: black, brown, blonde, or red. When melanin production slows down or shuts off, hair grows out gray or white. Now here's the key point most people never hear. In many cases, those melanocytes are not dead. They're inactive, they're asleep, and like many systems in the body, they often shut down because they're missing the raw materials they need to function. Think of it like a factory. If a factory runs out of electricity or supplies, production stops. But that doesn't mean the factory is destroyed. Restore the power and materials, and production can restart. Your hair pigment system works the same way. Researchers have found that oxidative stress, nutrient deficiencies, and age-related depletion of certain compounds all play a role in turning hair gray. As we age, the body produces more hydrogen peroxide inside hair follicles. This peroxide literally bleaches hair from the inside out. Normally, your body neutralizes it easily, but over time, the systems that protect hair pigment weaken, especially when key nutrients are missing. This is why two people the same age can have completely different hair color outcomes. One may be mostly gray at 40, while another keeps their natural color well into their 60s. It's not just genetics, it's internal chemistry. Now, before we go any further, let's be very clear. No nutrient works like magic overnight. This isn't about instant reversal in a week. Hair grows slowly, and pigment changes happen gradually. But multiple studies and real-world observations show that restoring specific nutrients can help support melanocyte function, reduce oxidative damage, and in some people, allow natural color to return over time. And today, I'm going to walk you through 3 nutrients that matter more than any others when it comes to hair pigmentation. Not trendy supplements, not exotic herbs, but deeply researched, biologically essential nutrients that your hair pigment cells depend on. The first thing you need to understand is that gray hair is often a sign of depletion, not aging alone. Aging just makes depletion more likely. Your body prioritizes survival over appearance. When nutrients are limited, your body diverts them to vital organs like the heart and brain. Hair pigment is considered non-essential, so when supplies run low, melanin production is one of the first things to shut down. This explains something fascinating. In some people, gray hair appears during periods of extreme stress, illness, or poor diet, and then partially reverses once health improves. That's not a coincidence. That's biology responding to availability. One major study published in Nature showed that stress-related gray hair could actually reverse when stress levels dropped. That tells us something powerful. Pigment loss is not always permanent. Now let's talk about the first critical nutrient, one that acts like a master switch for hair pigment protection. This nutrient is involved in neutralizing hydrogen peroxide inside the hair follicle. Without it, peroxide builds up, damaging melanocytes and bleaching hair internally. With enough of it, the follicle regains its ability to protect melanin. This nutrient also supports enzymes that directly participate in melanin synthesis. Without it, even if melanocytes are present, they simply can't do their job. Many adults over 40 are deficient in this nutrient and don't know it. Blood tests often miss it. And symptoms can appear subtly: fatigue, premature aging, weaker hair, and yes, early graying. What makes this nutrient especially important is that levels decline naturally with age, stress, smoking, alcohol use, and chronic inflammation. Modern diets don't help either. When this nutrient is restored through food or supplementation, researchers have observed improvements not only in hair quality, but also in pigment stability over time. In the next part, I'll reveal exactly what this first nutrient is, how it works inside your hair follicle, and the safest ways to restore it naturally, without gimmicks or false promises. The first nutrient that plays a powerful role in restarting hair pigment production is copper. Copper is one of the most overlooked minerals in modern nutrition, yet it is absolutely essential for melanin production. Inside your hair follicle, there is a key enzyme called tyrosinase. This enzyme is directly responsible for turning the amino acid tyrosine into melanin, the pigment that gives hair its color. And here's the critical detail. Tyrosinase cannot function without copper. Without enough copper, melanocytes may still be present, but they become ineffective. They're like workers with no tools. Hair continues to grow, but pigment production slows down or stops entirely, and the hair grows out gray or white. Copper also plays another important role. It helps neutralize hydrogen peroxide inside the hair follicle. As we age, hydrogen peroxide naturally builds up and bleaches hair from the inside. Copper-dependent enzymes help break this peroxide down into harmless components. When copper levels are low, peroxide accumulates and damages pigment cells. This is why copper deficiency has been repeatedly linked to premature graying in scientific literature. In animal studies, restoring copper has even reversed graying fur. In humans, the process is slower and more subtle, but the mechanism is the same. Now, here's where things get interesting. Many people assume they get enough copper, but they don't. Modern diets are often low in copper-rich foods, and high zinc intake, common in supplements and cold remedies, can actually block copper absorption. Over time, this creates a hidden imbalance. Signs of low copper can include early graying, thinning hair, low energy, weakened immunity, pale skin, and joint stiffness. But these signs often get blamed on aging instead of nutrition. The safest way to restore copper is through food first. Copper-rich foods include beef liver, oysters, dark chocolate, cashews, sunflower seeds, mushrooms, lentils, and whole grains. Even small amounts regularly can make a difference over time. Supplementation should always be modest. Copper works best in balance with zinc. Too much copper is not helpful and can cause problems. Most people who supplement only need very small amounts, and only if their diet is lacking. Now, copper alone is not enough. Think of pigment production as a three-part system. Copper turns on the machinery, but it still needs fuel and protection. This brings us to the second nutrient, which acts as both a fuel source and a shield for melanocytes. The second nutrient is not a mineral. It's not a vitamin most people associate with hair. But without it, pigment cells become fragile, inflamed, and more likely to shut down. This nutrient is essential for DNA repair inside melanocytes. Hair pigment cells divide and renew constantly. Over time, oxidative stress damages their DNA. When repair systems fail, melanocytes stop functioning properly or disappear altogether. This nutrient also helps regulate inflammation around the hair follicle. Chronic low-grade inflammation is one of the fastest ways to shut down pigment production. When inflammation rises, the body sacrifices pigment to preserve energy. Deficiency in this nutrient becomes more common with age, digestive issues, certain medications, and poor protein intake. And here's the key detail. Even people who eat healthy can still be functionally deficient. This nutrient works behind the scenes. You don't feel it immediately. But when levels are restored, hair often becomes stronger, thicker, and more resilient first, before any pigment changes appear. That's a good sign. It means the follicle environment is healing. Researchers studying hair aging have found that restoring this nutrient improves follicle stem cell health, and healthy stem cells are critical for maintaining melanocytes long-term. In real-world observations, people who corrected this deficiency often noticed something surprising months later. New hairs growing in with slightly darker roots, not jet black overnight, just subtle color returning where gray once dominated. That's how real biological change happens. Quietly, gradually, naturally. In the next part, I'll reveal exactly what this second nutrient is, how it protects pigment cells at the genetic level, and why it becomes so easy to miss after age 40. And then I'll introduce the third nutrient, the one that acts like the ignition key. Without it, pigment production simply cannot restart, no matter how much copper or support you provide. The second nutrient is vitamin B12. Vitamin B12 plays a deeply protective role in hair pigmentation, yet it's one of the most commonly deficient nutrients in adults over 40. B12 is essential for DNA synthesis, cell division, and nerve function, but its role in hair pigment is often ignored. Melanocytes are fast-working cells. They constantly divide, repair, and regenerate as hair grows. Every time a new hair strand forms, melanocytes must copy their DNA accurately to continue producing melanin. Vitamin B12 is critical for this process. Without enough B12, DNA replication becomes faulty, repair systems weaken, and melanocytes gradually lose their ability to function. When this happens, hair doesn't fall out right away. Instead, it grows out gray. Several clinical studies have found a strong association between premature graying and low B12 levels. In fact, early graying is sometimes one of the first visible signs of long-term B12 deficiency, often appearing years before anemia or nerve symptoms show up. Here's why B12 deficiency is so common. As we age, stomach acid production declines. Stomach acid is required to release B12 from food. Medications like antacids, acid reducers, and metformin further reduce absorption. Digestive conditions and low protein intake also interfere, so even if someone eats meat or animal products, they may still be deficient. Vitamin B12 also helps regulate homocysteine, a compound that increases oxidative stress when it builds up. High homocysteine levels damage hair follicles and accelerate melanocyte aging. When B12 is restored, homocysteine drops, inflammation decreases, and the follicle environment becomes more supportive of pigment production. Another key role of B12 is in supporting red blood cell formation. Healthy blood flow delivers oxygen and nutrients directly to hair follicles. Poor circulation starves pigment cells, making them more vulnerable to shutdown. When B12 levels improve, people often notice increased energy first, then better hair texture, and only later, sometimes months later, changes in pigmentation at the root level. This delay is important to understand. Hair that has already grown out gray will not change color, but new hair growing from a healthier follicle may begin producing melanin again. Now let's talk about how to restore B12 safely. Food sources include beef, fish, eggs, dairy, and liver. But for many adults, especially over 50, food alone is not enough. Sublingual B12 or low-dose supplements are often used to bypass digestion issues. The key is consistency, not megadoses. Now we move to the third nutrient, the one that acts like the ignition key. You can have copper, you can have B12, but without this third nutrient, pigment production cannot restart. This nutrient directly fuels melanin synthesis itself. It is the raw building block that melanocytes convert into pigment. Without it, the factory has workers and electricity, but no material to produce anything. This nutrient is an amino acid called tyrosine. Tyrosine is the direct precursor to melanin. Inside the melanocyte, tyrosine is converted step by step into pigment. Copper-dependent enzymes control the process, but tyrosine is the starting material. As we age, protein digestion and amino acid absorption often decline. Chronic stress also depletes tyrosine because the body diverts it to make stress hormones like dopamine and norepinephrine. When stress is constant, tyrosine is pulled away from non-essential systems like hair pigment. Low tyrosine availability doesn't shut pigment off overnight. Instead, it causes a slow fade. Hair may become dull, then gray, strand by strand. Tyrosine also supports thyroid hormone production, and thyroid health is closely linked to hair pigmentation. Low thyroid function is frequently associated with early graying, thinning, and dry hair. Food sources of tyrosine include chicken, turkey, fish, eggs, dairy, beans, nuts, seeds, and soy. In most people, adequate protein intake restores tyrosine levels naturally. Supplements are sometimes used, but food is the safest foundation. Here's the important part. These three nutrients work together. Copper activates the pigment enzymes. Vitamin B12 protects and repairs pigment cells. Tyrosine provides the raw material to make melanin. Missing even one weakens the entire system. This is why random supplements rarely work. and why some people see results only after addressing all three. In the next part, I'll explain how lifestyle factors like stress, inflammation, and gut health can block these nutrients, even if you're consuming them, and what simple changes help your body actually use what you give it. Now that you understand the three nutrients, copper, vitamin B12, and tyrosine, the next crucial question is this: why do some people take these nutrients and still see no change in their gray hair? The answer lies in what blocks absorption and shuts pigment production back down, even when the right building blocks are present. The biggest blocker is chronic stress. Stress doesn't just affect your mood, it changes your biochemistry. Under constant stress, your body releases cortisol and adrenaline. These hormones redirect nutrients away from non-essential functions, including hair pigment. Tyrosine gets diverted to make stress neurotransmitters. Copper utilization drops. B12 absorption weakens. This is why stress-related graying can happen suddenly, and why pigment sometimes returns when stress is reduced. The body simply reallocates resources. Sleep plays a similar role. During deep sleep, your body repairs DNA, balances hormones, and regenerates stem cells in hair follicles. Poor sleep reduces melanin-supporting activity. Even one nutrient deficiency combined with sleep loss can shut pigment production off. Next is inflammation. Low-grade chronic inflammation silently damages melanocytes. Inflammatory signals tell the body to conserve energy. Pigment production is one of the first systems to be sacrificed. This inflammation often comes from poor gut health, insulin resistance, processed foods, or unresolved infections. Your gut is especially important here. Copper and B12 absorption depend heavily on gut and stomach function. Low stomach acid, common after age 40, reduces B12 absorption. Gut inflammation blocks mineral uptake. This means you could be consuming enough nutrients, but your body isn't using them. Improving digestion alone has led some people to see changes in hair texture and pigment without changing supplements at all. Then there's oxidative stress. Remember hydrogen peroxide buildup in hair follicles? When antioxidant systems weaken, peroxide accumulates and bleaches hair from the inside. Copper-dependent enzymes normally neutralize it, but only if they're supported by a healthy antioxidant environment. This is why diets rich in colorful vegetables, fruits, and whole foods matter. Antioxidants reduce the burden on pigment cells, allowing them to recover. Now here's something very important. Hair pigment returns, if it happens, always starts at the root. You won't wake up with dark hair overnight. You'll notice fine, darker strands near the scalp. A salt and pepper phase is common. This is normal and a sign of recovery. Another key point: age does not automatically prevent pigment return. There are documented cases of pigment returning in people in their 50s, 60s, and even 70s. What matters is whether melanocyte stem cells are still present. In many people they are, just inactive. However, pigment return is not guaranteed. Genetics, autoimmune conditions, and long-term damage can limit recovery. The goal is support, not promises. What you can do is remove the barriers, reduce stress where possible, improve sleep quality, eat enough protein, support digestion, avoid extreme diets. These steps create an environment where nutrients can actually do their job. Another mistake people make is overdosing supplements. More is not better. Excess zinc blocks copper. Excess iron increases oxidative stress. Balance matters. Consistency matters more than intensity. Hair grows slowly. Changes appear over months, not weeks. Anyone promising instant reversal is ignoring biology. The most reliable early signs of progress are not color changes, but improved hair strength, shine, and reduced breakage. These indicate follicle health improving first. In the final part, I'll bring everything together into a clear, realistic timeline of what to expect, who is most likely to see results, and how to approach this safely and responsibly, without false hope or gimmicks. So let's bring everything together and talk about what realistic progress actually looks like when the body begins restoring hair pigment, and who is most likely to see results. First, understand this clearly. Reversing gray hair is not about forcing color back. It's about restoring function. When melanocytes regain the ability to produce melanin, color follows naturally. And that process always moves at the speed of hair growth and cellular repair. For most people, hair grows about half an inch per month. That means any internal change you make today will only show up gradually at the root over time. This is why patience is not optional, it's biological. In the first 1 to 2 months, the most common changes have nothing to do with color. People often notice less hair shedding, improved texture, more shine, and stronger strands. This is a sign that the follicle environment is improving. Blood flow, nutrient delivery, and stem cell activity are stabilizing. Between 3 and 6 months, some people begin to notice subtle changes at the scalp line. New hairs may appear slightly darker or less translucent. Gray hairs may start looking more silver than white. This doesn't happen to everyone, but when it does, it's always gradual. A salt and pepper transition is extremely common. That's not failure. That's recovery in progress. The people most likely to see pigment return share a few common factors. They experienced gray hair relatively early in life. Their graying accelerated during stress, illness, or poor diet. They don't have autoimmune conditions targeting hair follicles. And they still have mixed color hair, rather than completely white hair everywhere. That last point matters. Completely white hair often means melanocyte stem cells are gone. In those cases, nutrients can still improve hair health, but pigment return is less likely. Still, even then, improving follicle health has benefits far beyond appearance. Another important factor is consistency. Hair follicles respond to long-term signals, not short bursts. Taking nutrients sporadically, changing diets constantly, or chasing trends confuses the system. Stability allows repair. Also remember, nutrients don't work in isolation. Copper, vitamin B12, and tyrosine only help when the body can absorb and use them. That means managing stress, improving sleep, supporting digestion, and avoiding extreme restriction. One overlooked factor is protein intake. Many adults, especially older adults, simply don't eat enough protein. Without adequate protein, tyrosine availability drops, hair growth slows, and pigment production becomes impossible. No supplement can fix that alone. Hydration matters too. Dehydration reduces circulation to the scalp. Less blood flow means fewer nutrients reach pigment cells. And finally, mindset matters more than people realize. When people expect instant results, they quit too early. When they focus on internal health instead of just hair color, they often end up with better results overall, including pigment stability. Now let's be honest. This approach will not reverse gray hair in everyone. Anyone claiming 100% success is not respecting biology. But what this approach does offer is something far more valuable: control. Instead of believing gray hair is random and irreversible, you understand the mechanisms. You support the systems that keep pigment alive. And even if full reversal doesn't happen, you slow further graying, strengthen existing pigment, and improve overall hair and metabolic health. Gray hair is not a flaw. It's a signal. Sometimes it's genetic. Sometimes it's time. But very often it's the body telling you something is missing. And when the right things are restored, the body has an incredible ability to respond, even later in life. That's the real message here.